little chat about books. Hi guys, so I am here today to do an updated version of my top 10 fantasy series. I did this video a while back, so I do already have 10 recommendations for you guys. If you've not already seen that video, I will link it in the description box so you guys can go and check that out as well. But these are 10 more fantasy series that I really enjoy and I would definitely recommend to you guys to pick up. So let's get started. The first series that I read very recently and I enjoyed a lot and I would definitely recommend is Robin Hobb's FARSEER trilogy. This begins with Assassin's Apprentice and there are 3 books in the series and I really enjoyed this series. I can see why people love Robin Hobb. Her writing style is beautiful. The way that she creates characters is very interesting because they have a very slow development, but you do feel like they are real and believable characters, so that is a great thing to see. I love the story and the powers that are within this story. There are different types and you get to discover along the way all about what happens with them and how they can be trained and how some of them are not looked upon favourably by others in the book. It's a really great story about a young boy called Fitz and how he has to grow up into a life of being a bastard. He has to kind of accept the ways that bastards are treated and he has to serve his king and his realm whether he wants to or not, and it's a kind of struggle with what is right and what is wrong and what he should do about his powers that are manifesting and he can't stop them. And all sorts of cool things happen throughout the story, so it's definitely a really cool read. If you want to pick this up, I would highly recommend it. I've read the first 2 in the series so far and I am currently reading the 3rd one. I'm very much enjoying it and I definitely want to pick up more Robin Hobb in the future because of this series, so I think this is a great starting place with Robin Hobb. Next, I would recommend the CODEX ALERA series, which is by Jim Butcher. This was my first exposure to Jim Butcher and he's a really great fast-paced writer. These books are quite large but they are still really exciting the whole way through. They're very action-packed, there's always something going on and it's a really cool story. The characters are very likeable and there are some who you really like and some who you hate, so it's a great interactive story where you're constantly rooting for someone. There are interesting powers in this story which are called Furies, and you have certain Furies that will do things for you if you have an affiliation with them. Certain elements have certain Furies. For example, some people have Earth Furies, some people have Fire, etc. And it's just a very cool idea, a nice concept, and the story pacing is great because it's so fast. Again, this is a series that I've really enjoyed and I've rated very highly. So there are 6 books in the series and it's definitely one I would recommend. I have currently read 3 of them. I do intend to read the next 3 very soon if I can get around to them. Really great series so far, guys. Definitely recommend this. Next is The History Keepers, which is a kids series by Damien Dibbons. This series is one of my all-time favourite kids series. I kind of discovered it by accident when I won the 2nd book on Goodreads, but it's a really fun series. It's all about these kids and grown-ups who can travel through time. It's a secret operation and they have to travel through time catching bad guys who are trying to alter time and making sure that they don't get caught up in the things of the past and be unable to return to their home. It's a really action-packed story. The characters are very likeable, really enjoyable character development as they go through. They grow up and they mature. There are currently 3 books out, but there are planned to be more in the series and I definitely will be picking them up. I have read all 3 that are currently out. This series has some great, really memorable characters who are very enjoyable. They have fun jokes and fun banter between them, so it's a very light-hearted and enjoyable read. Certainly one I pick up to kind of break up the monotony of hard, dense fantasy. This is a really light, enjoyable, laugh-out-loud kind of book, so that's a great one to pick up as well. Next I have Theft of Swords, which is by Michael J. Sullivan, and this is in the RIYRIA Revelations series. This is the first 2 books. The first one is The Crown Conspiracy, the second one is Abenpatha, and I really enjoyed both of them. I do believe there are 6 in the series, so I definitely want to continue on with this. If you've read Lies of Locke Lamora and you like the characters of Jean and Locke and their kind of relationship, then you would definitely enjoy Royce and Hadrian in this series because they are very similar. They have a different plot line, of course, Scott Lynch and Sullivan have very, very different writing styles. However, their characters are really, really similar, and the relationship and the banter and the enjoyment that you get out of reading them is great, because this series, although it has very classic tones to it, it is actually very modern and very fresh in the way that it views fantasy. The characters are very likeable. There are some, again, who you very much dislike, and the whole story is just very, very enjoyable to read. Nothing too heavy, very, very light-hearted, quick to get through. Definitely recommend this. I read this very recently and loved it. Next is a series that I read a long time ago but didn't put on my last list because there wasn't space, and that is the His Dark Materials series by Philip Pullman. This is the story of Lyra, who is a young girl, and she lives in an alternate world. Her world has demons, which are basically kind of like the souls of people, and everyone has their own demon, and it's the story of a young girl who has to go on a huge epic adventure across the trilogy. It's set in a snowy landscape and it's really, really great. I absolutely adored this story. It's one of the best kind of adventure stories. I know that there is a film called The Golden Compass that was absolutely shocking. It was terrible. So if you've watched the film and that put you off reading the book, please don't judge it off that film, because I did not like that film at all. It was awful. But the books are amazing, so definitely go and pick them up. I would highly recommend this as a kids series. Even as an adult series, it does have a lot of theology behind it, and there are parallels with our world that are really interesting to think about too. It's a great series and I would definitely recommend this. Next I have The Left Hand of God, which is by Paul Hoffman. This is a series that is largely focused on religion, so if you have anything against religion in books, then definitely don't pick this up. However, it isn't the Christian religion, it is a very different religion, and the standards that they uphold and the things that happen within this book, although based perhaps on the past and things that have happened in our history, it's definitely not Christianity as it is today, so don't worry if you are not religious, it doesn't matter, you can still really enjoy this book. I myself am not religious, but this book is great and this series is really, really exciting. This series follows the story of a young boy called Thomas as he goes through a lot of torture and heartache and pain. He is a really special character, he's got something very special about him, but we don't know what it is. And we realise that he's very, very clever. He's kind of been groomed as he's been brought up to be something great, but he doesn't want to meet this destiny. He doesn't want to be that person. He wants to escape from the prison that he lives in. It's not a very nice place that he lives in. They're constantly getting beaten up and they have to attend horrible rituals all the time. So definitely this is a series that is dark, definitely not a light one, but really, really gruesome and interesting. If you're into dark stuff, if you're into kind of torture, or
not if you're into torture.
If you don't mind a bit of torture in books, and if you don't mind a little bit of crazy, creepy stuff going on, this is a really, really great read and I would definitely recommend this series. I've read the first two in it and I really, really want to read the third one very, very soon. So hopefully I will, and I really enjoyed this. Next I have Blood Song, which is by Anthony Ryan. This is book 1 in the Raven Shadow series, which I believe is going to be a trilogy. This is an amazing book. Anthony Ryan kind of came out of nowhere. He actually self-published this book to begin with and sold quite a lot of copies, and then eventually he got a contract with Orbit and sold through them as his publisher. So this is the Orbit edition. I really loved this book. It was one of the best books I've read this year. It was highly enjoyable. The character development was amazing. Camaraderie that the characters had and the enjoyment between them was great to see. They had banter, they had laughter, but they also suffered together. They went through hardships together and they grew as a cast of characters throughout the course of this book. It's a really, really interestingly written story with excellent storyline and plot, but the characters are definitely my favourite aspect. I adored this book. I didn't love the second one as much, but this book alone was amazing and I would definitely recommend this series as a whole. I do want to continue on with the series. I have read the first two and I'm hoping to continue when the next ones come out. But yeah, this one was definitely more of my favourite than the second one. The second one wasn't as good, but I'm hoping the third one will be really interesting. Next, I have Red Rising, which is by Pierce Brown, a dystopian kind of fantasy story, which is really interesting. If you like the Hunger Games, I would say that you probably will like this. It's not like the Hunger Games, it's just very similar in the writing style. It's very easy to get through, very fast-paced, and a lot of interesting stuff happens. This is a world where different colours have different meanings. and for example, being a red is the lowest caste of society. There are all sorts of different colours and each colour has a different job. The Reds are working on the surface of Mars to try and excavate Mars, make it habitable for humans, and this story follows the life of one of the Reds when he suddenly realises that actually maybe there's already life on Mars and the Reds have been lied to their whole lives. So it's quite a big shock to him and he ends up in some very interesting situations where he has to adapt to what he now knows and he has to grow as a character. He has to become something he never thought he would be. It's kind of like a fight against the top dog and against the government and the ruling parties. So I really enjoyed this. I thought it was action-packed and amazing. I would definitely recommend this series. I was not expecting it to be anywhere near as good as it was. It very much surprised me. The start was a little slow and a little bit hard to get into because there are some words that are quite different to the English language made up for the book, and they were difficult to get my head around at first, but as I got further through I ended up really enjoying it. The second book in this series is due out early next year, so certainly one that I'm going to be watching for and hopefully picking up very soon after it comes out. Next I have a graphic novel, and that is Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I had never heard of Saga until very recently and I picked it up a couple of months ago. I didn't only pick up volume 1, I picked up volume 1, 2 and 3 and I loved all of them. I thought they were all absolutely amazing. The art style is beautiful and the colours and palette is amazing. The storyline as well is just so fun. The characters are really inventive. The races and the different things that they get up to are very entertaining, and I would definitely recommend this. It's a fantasy graphic novel series. What more could you want? It's amazing. Definitely one of my favourite graphic novels ever, and I'm so excited for volume 4, which is coming out later in December, so hopefully I'll be able to get my hands on that very soon. And the final series, which I read on my Kindle, is The Broken Empire, which is by Mark Lawrence. I read the first one in this series, which is called Prince of Thorns. I haven't read any more in the series yet, but I definitely do want to, and I have the second one on my Kindle ready to go. This is a really interesting series because it is a grimdark series and it follows a very dark main character who has very strange morals. We don't really know if we like him or don't like him because he's not a nice guy. Instantly, when you read this series, you will be able to see that he is not a friendly, typical fantasy young hero. He's very much like an antagonist. He is not a nice person, he's not beloved, he's a nasty person, he's a torturer, he's an evil ruler, but is he as bad as his father, the king? That is the question. And it's a really great story about his journey and why he is so bitter, why he is such a dark character. We get to learn a lot about his past and we get to see how he's developed into this nasty character that he has become for the story. I really enjoyed it. I would definitely rate this series high and I will be continuing on with that series very soon. That is the updated version of my top 10 fantasy series. I have really enjoyed all of these books in all of these series, so definitely go and check them out. Also, if you have any suggestions for me of series that you haven't seen on my shelves or that I haven't mentioned, then do let me know because I'm always interested in picking up new fantasy series. So thank you guys so much for watching and I will see you all very soon in my next video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat about the